Hi, and welcome to 21st Century UK Trans. Now, I thought I would share with you guys today how I successfully came out to my elderly parents. My dad at the time would have been 80 and my mum 77. And I was understandably terrified of this. Now, I know my parents are very good people, but I was very afraid of the generational knee-jerk response of them finding out that their son was actually a daughter. My parents were amazing people, but I was understandably terrified. They're the opposite of me politically, and it was a generational thing. But I'm going to tell you how I did it in a hope that it might help other people. Now, human beings respond better to small changes than big changes. It is so tempting to just turn up one day and dress and go, I'm a woman, ta-da! Not going to get a good reaction probably out of that. So what I did was, after I realized myself that I was trans, and obviously I wrestled with it for a while, and then I decided to do something about it. I took it in stages. I came out to the people that I knew would be more accepting first. And that kind of like geared me up and gave me a bit of confidence. And then I hatched a plan for my parents. So what I did was I did it in stages, little increments, planting seeds in their minds, as it were. For I think it was about 6 weeks before I told them, I wore gradually tighter and more androgynous clothing around them. At the time, I had a 9-inch beard braid. Look at this photo. Yeah. And I eventually snipped it off. And then a couple of weeks later, I shaved for the first time in I think 13 years. Cut my face to ribbons. It was a mess. And then I asked my parents, I said, because they just dropped my son off and they were heading back home. And I remember I said, and I was shaking at this point. I remember I said, Mum, can I come down and talk to you weekend after the next? It's just, I've been going through some stuff recently and I finally have a handle on it enough that I want to talk to you about it. And my mum went, okay. So the scene was set. I downloaded and printed out some information packs, which you can find readily on the internet. I will try and post some links as well in the description about what to do if your child comes out as trans. And I printed them out for them. And I had this great plan. I prepared the speech weeks in advance, rehearsed it in my head over and over and over and over again. And it was a really kind of like baby step way of explaining to them what was going on. And the day arrived. And I bought 3 huge pieces of cake because I thought there's a good chance that this will go horribly wrong and I'll leave in tears, drive away and pull up somewhere and just eat cake. And I went down there and I was terrified. My mum said she didn't sleep a wink the night before this day. She was worried as hell about what I was going to say to her. And I remember we sat down, we made a brew, we made small talk for about half an hour, and then my mum, through gritted teeth, said, just tell us. I put my brew down, shaking, terrified, and brought the speech to mind that I'd rehearsed 1,000,000 times in my head. I said, okay, Mum, do you remember a few years ago when I was being treated for depression for a completely unrelated thing. Got it sorted though. It came out, one of the things that came out in therapy was I'd never actually loved myself. And my mum went, "No, you never told us that." And my plan went, yeah, because I was planning to build on that. And I kind of went, so, well, okay, but it's true. I've never actually loved myself. But I figured out why, Mum. And at this point, I'm crying. Because I was so scared. And I said, okay, well, what it was, Mum, is that I'm actually struggling to remember this now. So, okay, well, what it is, and I'm struggling, and I've got snot coming out my nose. I'm drowning in snot, flooding in tears, and I am more scared than I've ever been in my entire life. I said, well, Mum, do you know how you were born with a woman's brain and a woman's heart and a woman's body? And Dad was born with a male brain and a male heart and a male body. Well, I was born and my heart was thundering in my chest. I just wanted to run, but I knew I had to do it. And I got snot everywhere and tears. And I said, well, Mum, and I can remember it took so long to spit this out. I said, well, Mum, I was born in a male body, but with a female brain and a female heart. And my mum looked at me and said, what are you trying to tell us? I took a deep breath, wiped some of the snot away, and said, well, I'm a woman trapped in a man's body. I'm a transgender woman, and I always have been. And there was this pause, and my dad's just fiddling with his rolling tobacco, which is what I was hoping for, because my dad is a war baby and doesn't often show emotion, but I knew that was him processing what I was trying to say. So my mum then says, this doesn't mean you're getting a sex change, does it? And I took a deep breath. I said, well, actually, Mum, yes, that's my plan. And I'm crying. And I'm covered in snot. And I am so afraid. And there was this pause that seemed to go on and on forever. And then my mum looked me in the eye and said, did you honestly think we wouldn't still love you? And I got off the sofa, I ran over to my mum and I just jumped on her knee and we put our arms around each other and I cried. And I cried and I cried. And I was afraid for nothing. But I was there for 10.5 hours that day. We ate, we laughed, and I opened up to them about everything from my sexuality to my gender and everything I was always afraid to tell them. And I honestly believe doing it in stages, planting seeds, made it easier because they were half expecting it. My mum told me that she thought it was either going to be something to do with my gender or that I was gay or something. So planting seeds, it wasn't as big a shock because they half expected it anyway. And I honestly believe that helped. And if you have any questions or anything else, I will try and leave links to resources in the description. probably the hardest thing a trans person can ever do is come out. After that, everything gets easier. It really does. But if you are trans, whether you're out or not, I love you. And you are worthy of every happiness. And I will talk to you soon.